This time around, Somi, what do you have for me?
Yes, today I want to talk about the making of an eagle.
The making of an eagle.
Yes. You know, when the mother eagle is about to produce her offsprings,
Yes.
the first thing she does is to locate a very tall tree where she will erect her nest. Then the next thing is to go pick some stones and pieces of rocks for foundation. And then after that, she goes about picking some wools and soft materials to lay on top of the foundation and the stones. Then she now gets straws and other things, you know, to cover the nest. She now lays her eggs and starts to incubate. It takes about 35 days for the incubation process. But after that, when the eaglets are now hatched, the mother will go out and pick some food and bring the food into the nest. After a little while, if you observe that the eaglets are not forthcoming, they are not getting emboldened, they are weak, so to say, she starts pulling off the wools underneath their claws, the wools under where they are stepping on. Start pulling it off. The idea is to allow them make contact, their soft claws, to make contact with the hard stones on the floor. After all that, if you still discover that the eaglets are not really working, they are not really acting like what they are supposed to do, the mother eagle will now bring food. Instead of bringing the food into the nest, will drop the food at a tree branch by the side for them to go and pick it up for themselves. And if they fail to do that, she will now come around and start, you know, doing some somersault, showing them what to do, and they still refuse to fly, to come out and go, you know, fend for themselves. Now come and pick them up and take them into the sky, drop them, and then do some somersault, pick up again, and drop them and pick up again. This process continues. Why will the mother eagle be acting in this manner to the eaglets? Because he wants them to get toughened. It's not because he hates them, but he wants them to get toughened because he knows that the world they live in the wildlife is a very tough one. For you to survive, you must be fair, you must. And the same thing happens to human beings. You know, the psalmist talks about one walking in the valley of the shadow of death.
Fearing no evil.
The good thing about it is that you don't have to fear because the Lord is always with you in that midst of that trial, in that situation. Same thing, you know, everybody must pass through his or her own dark night of the soul every once in a while. But when they're going there, the good thing is that we have to always know that there is a presence, an awesome presence with us. Hence, we should not be afraid. Because nothing that is needful that is withheld. Everything needful, he's always ever willing to give us. So that we'll be able to withstand the wiles of the enemy. So that he can, in fact, he's always ready to, you know, furnish a table in the desert for us. If we have to believe. And according to our faith, so it is always. So, what I'm saying is, let us not be dismayed when we are going through trials and travails of life. The challenges of life are not there to pull us down, but to give us impetus. They should act as propellant that will, an elixir that will push us to greater heights. Thank you.
Making of an eagle. Dr. Precious, you know what this brings to my mind right now? It just occurred to me that as much as we raise children, if we all adopt the style
of the mother eagle,
They'll be great.
they'll be tough,
They'll be
They'll be
strong
great.
for the future.
they'll be strong.
you know, we are told that in the world we will have problems, trials and tribulations. We will get to be of good cheer because he has overcome for us.
There was something Dr. David Oyedepo will always say. if you pamper your children today, they will tamper with you tomorrow.
Yes.
So sometimes we are over pampering, and eventually they tamper. There's a story I wanted to share when I sent you the topic of drug abuse. The son was into drugs. He got home, met his mom, and because he was high on drugs, stabbed his mother multiple times,
Yes.
raped her. And then in the morning when his eye was clear, he couldn't believe what he had done. He cried profusely
He wasn't the one
and
that
took
did
his
this.
own life.
Another spirit came into him and get that
Yes,
home.
and they were buried in the church just this week. Before the time I'll send you that topic. So that was what necessitated that, and I'll be speaking on the campaign on the 28th on that. It's preposterous. We need to give attention to our children, just like the youth.
Parents should stop doing for the children what they ought to do for themselves. You must borrow a leaf from the mother ego.
Children don't like to hear that. You know, my dad, I told you now, we'll be in church and I'm seated next to dad, and Bishop Oyedepo will say, if your child is 21 and is still eating your food, send him out to go and carry block on his head. His brain will open. My dad will say, can you hear? And I was not even 18 at that time. You know, messages like that shaping us.
Yes.
And I think we need more of that. We need more of that.
I'm even of the opinion that when your child is growing up as a father, as a mother, when your child is growing up, one of the biggest gifts you can give your child is to introduce them to work as early as possible.
Very true.
Little things around the house.
Sure.
If you're able to clean this place and arrange this for me, I will buy you maybe a new gift or something, the words. And then when you get to 10, you find a place around the house and you say, okay, rather than paying a sitter to sit your younger child, okay, watch over your sister, you're just afar off watching, and you know, things like that. I know a man who has just one child, a daughter. He's in his 60s. I had children really late, so he has just one child. And he's a girl. She's just about 12 now. She started working in a supermarket when she was 10. A supermarket in the estate where they lived. She goes out in the morning. The father drops her at work during the long holiday. She stays there and she works to help them dust the shelves, you know. She dusts the shelves for them at the supermarket wearing their uniform.
She's imbibing the sense of industry.
Yes.
From that
Which will come in
little
handy
age. And when she
later in
finished,
life.
she came to people like me, mentors like me, and she was like, Aunt Tomisin, I'm going to buy you gifts for your birthday. And she actually bought me a gift for my birthday from the money that she made as salary being a cleaner in the supermarket at 10.
That's what
At 10.
that's what Rockefellers do. They ensure that they send their children to the shop to do this, pay them. They pay them. They work and
Yes.
they pay them. You know, for the
Pay them for being
Yes.
for being handsome, for being useful to
Yes,
you.
yes.
You have attendants, you have children. You know, you have a driver, but you have a grown son who is idle at home, who does nothing. And you cannot take your grown son out and say, drive me to work today. You need a PA at work, and you have a grown child at home who can be your PA, who can be your secretary. And you don't do that for your child. You keep them at home and then you employ other people's children and maltreat them.
That's what they say when they say if you don't train them, they cannot be traced. If you don't train them, they will be trapped.
No wonder when people do those things, when they grow up, the children they maltreated are the ones that feed them.
Yes.
Their
Very
own
true.
children
Yes.
give them trouble.
Very true.
It's a really, really big issue that
Very
most
true.
parents,
And then they
if you
feel it
pre-
is karma. It's not karma anything. You were training that person. You thought you were maltreating the
Yeah.
person.
you trained
It's the
them.
training that is important there.
So
Whoever takes
especially
training.
in the aspect of cooking. So those ones you pampered, they cook, they don't know how to cook nothing. But you see, the
Can't
one
do any
you
domestic
punished
chores.
becomes
You see, cooking
the
is
best.
cooking is the least of my problems. If you are rich enough, if you're comfortable enough, you can even buy your food. Okay? You don't know how to cook, you can buy your food. But be useful around the house.
you see,
Your child
domestication is
does not
important.
iron your clothes. Your child doesn't iron for you. It doesn't wash for you. It doesn't wash plates. As in, you have a child who grows up to drop plates in the sink for your maid or someone who lives a bigger person around the house to wash for you. You are raising a stupid child. By the time that child is grown,